as you say, like in your personal life, although you cannot separate, as you say, you're more vulnerable, you're more frank, I guess. You're showing all the cards, right? You open hearted. Like this, what comes to my mind. And
Mm,
when you're in the context of maybe what will my boss think if I say that? What will my team think if I say that? How would they perceive me in my position, in my role? What you see what like more hierarchy way of thinking.
I see where you're going, and I invite people still to rethink this, because the second we think we are in a dichotomous life, that we have to separate things, it's really hard to keep those interwoven. The second we realize that, oh, I'm going to be a better person, a stronger person, a more effective person, a, fill in your own blank. As a leader, I'm going to have more profitability, better engagement, more resiliency on my team. Oh, and how about me? When we know that the strongest fabric is really integrated with I don't let me think of the right word here, with anomalies and unusual patterns, then we have the strongest fabric. To be vulnerable is not a weakness. To be vulnerable is to say, hey, I'm here, tell me what's going on, tell me so I can contribute, let me know, let me share with you. I think I'm a pretty good person, Adi. I am wholly unconcerned with what other people think about me. There are a handful of people in this world who I deeply care what they think about me, because, and only because, I know they truly love me, respect me, have my best interest, and I don't separate those people into business and personal. Does it feel different? It can, if it's not a regular pattern style. Case in point, I mentioned I'm here in Nebraska working. I saw two of my favorite clients. Yes, we have them. I hope you do.
Yeah, I do
It's not
have
a
my favorite
right?
clients.
It's not a
Yeah.
denigration on the others. They're just different things rise to different surfaces. And I got to see both of them yesterday. Like, whoa, one of them has gotten to the point where there is genuine deep affection. And the other one, it's growing, and it's like there's different ways we can communicate that, staying in a place where everybody concerned feels good about it.
Hmm.
Safety is sometimes familiarity, but familiarity isn't always safety. So we want to, when I'm connecting, I think of those two things too, Adi, where there's not necessarily a line, but there is a cognizance, there is a thoughtfulness. That's huge in connecting. When I met one of my clients yesterday, she stuck out her hand and we shook hands, and I said, "Can we hug?" And she said, "Nope." Like, okay. You know, ask more questions. That's one thing I want to give the listenership and the watchership today, Adi, is ask a lot more questions. It's always in my keynote, it's always in my teaching with the teams and associations. Like, when we're curious, we're in that connector's mindset, we innovate, we become more invincible, because we realize that it's not about being the smartest person in the room, it's about being the most curious.
Wow. And don't you think it's related to cultures? You know, you come from the US, I come from Israel. I work with lots of people from the US, and many of my clients are Americans actually. So don't you think it's related to the way that we perceive connection and what is the boundaries and like how do we connect really? How deep is it? Is it more like distant?
Yes is the short answer. There are so, you know this, you're priming your own pump. You're so right. And I'm really glad
Yeah,
you brought
that's
this up.
how I feel, but
Yeah.
maybe it's
There,
only me, you know?
no, it's not only you. You're absolutely right. Every culture has its own culture. I mean, that's why it's a culture. At the same time, the world has always intermingled. And I think that's good, because that cross pollinates, that refreshes, that resets. Sometimes it sets us on alert. Sometimes it makes us happy. There are so many contexts to how we connect, that we don't want to paralyze ourselves with it, Adi. And again, going back to the connector's mindset with that curiosity, when I come over to Israel, my grandpa visited your fine country many times when he was alive. He's very fond of Israel. And, when I travel, when I come over and see you, I'm going to ask you some questions before I get there. Like, what should I be thinking about? And what kind of lens? And are there some significant behaviors for me to be aware of, especially when we are traveling global? I mean, I've been in a pack where it's been a bunch of quote ugly Americans. I'm like, wow, this is ah, how do I how do I not necessarily offset that, but how do I then use that propel me to be more thoughtful and more kind and not judge, but say, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be this. How do I be this? So you're right. Culture, experience, upbringing, mindset is the biggest one. We are one of the few species, as you know, part of what makes us invincible and innovative is that we can literally change our mind. Our neuroplasticity is literally mind blowing. So yes, it's all kinds of things, and that's where when we have those great relationships, we become more confident in asking more questions.
Yeah, and I think that what you said about being more authentic, that's the word that comes to my mind.
Mm,
When you're not like saying, this is how I am in the office, this is how I am when I'm at home. So you're a full person with all your vulnerabilities, with all your downsides, and of course, upsides.
yeah.
And I think it could connect you better to people and to what you're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
and why you're doing that.
Yes, yes, you're 100% on target on that, Adi. And there's so many reasons why. I'll just mention three. Number one, when we are authentic, meaning when we are fully willing to be who we want to be, and that want to be is usually our best person, then we will both attract people and we will repel people. We have to be willing to say, this is who I'm going to be. And therefore, I am excited about who is going to end up being attracted to this and who I will let go of. There are almost 8 billion people on the planet. There are plenty of people. Number
Yeah.
two, when we're thinking about this, think about who you do really want to be. That's another thing I teach. The who is always more important than the do, Adi. Everybody on this planet is capable of lots of amazing possibilities. So who is it that you want to be so that you drive the what you do farther, better, you innovate, you feel invincible, but at the same time you also know you are a human, and so bringing that humanity into things, which leads me to number three. Like, let's have some humility in all of this. It's not, life is not a contest. Life is not a jockeying or a position. Your title has nothing to do with who you are inside. It's external trappings and identifiers, and certainly they hold some sort of weight. But at the end of the day, when we're all standing naked at the end and we're ready to peace out, like, that stuff doesn't matter. People remember, like, who's going to attend your funeral? Like, ask that kind of question.
That's a question that I have a very good friend. I talk to her each day. So each day we talk, and sometimes when we're down and there is this question, who would come to nobody would come to my wedding. We always talk about it because she has a very old, like, a mother. And when she's really down, she always talks to her, who's going to come to her wedding. And it's a question that we laugh about each time. But when you're thinking about it really more thoughtfully, it's like, who do you want to be in this world? What kind of a person you want to be to others? How do you want them to perceive you and yourself? How do you want to
Yes.
resonate in others,
Yes.
people's hearts and minds?
Yes. Yes. Yep. And that's that self team and community.